Hello everyone, I am Mr. T. Today we listen together to the horror story, The Midnight Whisperer. In a small, sleepy town nestled between dense forests and misty hills, there was a house at the end of Oakwood Street that no one dared to visit. It was the kind of house that children whispered about on Halloween, and adults refused to talk about altogether. Rumor had it that if you were quiet enough, just after midnight, you could hear a whisper coming from within. It was an unspoken rule among the townsfolk to avoid Oakwood Street after dark. But one night, a young man named Jacob, fresh from college and full of pride, decided he wanted to investigate the stories himself. After all, he reasoned, stories of haunted houses were just silly superstitions. Armed with a flashlight and his skepticism, Jacob set off for the old house. When he reached the front porch, the air around him felt heavy, pressing down on his chest. He took a deep breath, dismissing the feeling as nerves, and pushed open the creaking door. Inside, the house was deathly quiet, its air thick with dust and a faint, musty smell. The only sound was the slow, irregular ticking of an old grandfather clock in the hallway. But as Jacob stepped forward, the clock seemed to grow louder, each tick echoing in the silence. As he moved deeper into the house, he noticed strange symbols scratched into the walls, symbols he couldn't recognize, symbols that seemed to shift in the corner of his eye. His flashlight flickered. Then, at precisely midnight, the whisper began. At first, it was just a faint rustling, almost like a breeze, but the voice grew stronger, clearer. It was a woman's voice, soft yet icy, whispering his name. Jacob, Jacob. The sound echoed through the empty halls, seeming to come from all directions. His heart pounded as he shined his flashlight around, desperately searching for the source. And then he saw her. At the far end of the hallway stood a figure, a woman, her pale face partly obscured by a veil of long, dark hair. Her eyes were hollow, sunken, yet locked onto him with an intense, unnatural focus. Slowly, she raised a bony hand, pointing directly at him. Jacob stumbled backward, his breath coming in gasps as her whispering turned into a low, anguished wail. She took a step closer. The walls seemed to close in around him, the darkness becoming oppressive, suffocating. He tried to run, but his feet felt glued to the ground as her pale form drew nearer, her whispers growing louder and louder until they were all he could hear. In a final desperate attempt, he screamed and shut his eyes, but when he opened them, he was standing back on Oakwood Street. The house was gone, and so was the eerie whisper. Yet from that night on, Jacob was never the same. He could feel her presence wherever he went, and every night just after midnight, he would hear that whisper once again. Jacob, I'm still here. This is the end of the story. Thank you everyone for listening. Hello, and see you again in the next stories.